Delegation of Syrian Arab Republic to Moscow submits the points pertaining to the first provision of the working agenda under the title Assessment of the Current Situation. Syrian Arab Army units restore full control on Qalat al-Sindian and eliminate dozens of terrorists in several areas. Saudi military aggression on Yemen continues, claiming more victims as the UN warns against a humanitarian catastrophe in the country. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to our news for today. At the first session of the second day of the second round of the consultative preliminary meeting in Moscow, the Syrian Arab Republic's delegation presented a number of points on the agenda's first provision entitled Assessment of the Present Situation. The points are settling the crisis in Syria through peaceful political means on a consensus basis built on the Geneva I principles of June 30th, 2012. Calling on the world community to exercise earnest and immediate pressure on all Arab, regional and international sides, particularly Turkey, Jordan, Saudi Arabia and Qatar, to stop all acts of support for terrorism, which include facilitating terrorists crossing into Syria and training, harboring, funding and arming them. Calling on the world community to immediately and completely lift the blockade and all the coercive, unilateral measures and economic sanctions imposed on the Syrian state. The results of any political process should be based on national sovereignty and the people's will, backing and enhancing national reconciliations and supporting the army and armed forces in fighting terrorism. Calling on the world community to help bring back the Syrian refugees to their homeland and work to create the appropriate circumstances for the return of the displaced. The following points constitute the basis of any political process. Safeguarding national sovereignty and the unity of the Syrian land and people, preserving the state's institutions and working to develop them and promote their performance, commitment to the liberation of all the occupied Syrian lands, inter-Syrian dialogue under Syrian leadership and without any foreign intervention is the only way to accomplish a political solution. Calling on the world community to support the agreement to be reached in Moscow ahead of adopting it during the Geneva III conference. To our news on the ground, the Syrian Arab Army has tightened control over Qalat al-Sindian hill in the western mountains of Majdalani in Damascus Countryside, eliminating a number of terrorists and destroying their weapons. In Idleb and its suburb, dozens of terrorists from al-Nusra and other terrorist organizations under its leadership have also been killed, and their vehicles and equipment have been destroyed in a number of villages in Al-Arba'in mountain. In Homs eastern countryside, many terrorists have been killed or wounded near the Lebanese borders. In Hama, several gunmen have also been killed or injured and their hideouts destroyed in the villages north of the city. The inhabitants of Aqarib city in Al-Salamiyah, in cooperation with People's Defense Units, have, on the other hand, intercepted ISIL terrorists who tried to infiltrate into the village, leaving many of them dead and forcing others to flee. In Lattakia northern suburb, a large number of terrorists have moreover been killed and their weapons-loaded vehicles have been destroyed, as well as their machine guns and missiles launching podiums in 5 towns. The Syrian Arab Army also targeted ISIL in 3 areas in Al-Hasaka. In Aleppo, Syrian Arab Army units intercepted an attempt by terrorists to infiltrate from the ancient part of Aleppo into the city and attacked Barakiyat al-Arman area, inflicting on the armed men heavy losses. Member of the PLO Executive Committee, Dr. Ahmed Majdalani, has said Syria and the Palestinians cooperate regarding any subsequent steps that may be taken in the Yarmouk camp. He added that the decision will be taken jointly by the 2 sides to recover the camp from the terrorists who have it under their control now. In a press conference held in Damascus today, Majdalani said The Syrian leadership has dealt with the situation of the camp with a great deal of sensitivity in view of its special status, as it represents the capital of the Palestinian diaspora in terms of size and the number of population, in addition to the historical national role it played in the eruption of the contemporary Palestinian revolution. Therefore, Majdalani added, no Syrian security solution has been raised in order not to look as if it were a Syrian stand to liquidate the Palestinian cause, and no Palestinian intervention has been made in order not to appear as if it were an inter-Palestinian fight. The Governorate of Damascus Countryside, the Red Crescent Organization and the Syrian Civil Society have cooperated to get 4,500 food baskets and other material into the towns of Yalda and Babila to meet the needs of the displaced in Yarmouk camp, a situation resulting from the terrorist organization's practices. Welcome back. The Saudi-led aggression on Yemen has entered its third week, claiming the lives of hundreds of civilians, particularly children, and injuring thousands. Dozens have been killed today during Saudi airstrikes, which targeted a market north of Sana'a. The warplanes also hit houses west of the capital, leaving many civilians dead. The Saudi-led warplanes have also pounded Marin district in Sada and Taiz cities overnight. Yemeni ground defenses, on the other hand, intercepted the Saudi warplanes in Zammar. The Yemeni army has meanwhile completely taken control of Artuq in Shabwa, east of the country. Spokesman of the UN Secretary General Stefan Dujarric has warned that the situation there was very grave, on the verge of a humanitarian catastrophe. Iranian Supreme Leader Ayatollah Ali Khamenei has declared that the attack on the Yemeni people is a crime of genocide that may be followed up at the international level. What Saudi Arabia is doing in Yemen resembles what the Zionist entity had done in Gaza. He stressed that Saudi Arabia has been wrong in attacking Yemen, thus starting a bad precedent in the region. Khamenei said killing children and destroying infrastructure in Yemen is a major crime. On nuclear file, he demanded that all sanctions be lifted immediately before a final agreement was concluded. He added that the details of the accord would be decisive. On the Saudi military attack on Yemen, Iranian President Hassan Rouhani said that only internal dialogue among the Yemeni people will render positive results, adding that the threat of warplanes can lead to wrong consequences. Meanwhile, Rouhani stressed that Iran will not sign any final nuclear agreement except when sanctions are fully lifted, pointing out that the results of the negotiations with the group of 5+1 in Lausanne was a victory for Iran after insisting on its right for a peaceful nuclear program. Rouhani said in speech on the occasion of celebrating the National Day of Nuclear Technology in Iran that the Iranian people were able to stand against all international pressures and will go ahead developing Iran's technological advancements. Iraqi warplanes targeted ISIL dens in Salahuddin province and destroyed their weapons and ammunition. Meanwhile, a source at Ninawa province said that ISIL terrorists shot to death 10 doctors for refusing to treat the wounded ISIL fighters south of Mosul. The Iraqi troops had taken full control of Al-Sijariya, Al-Fallahat and Al-Bughanim in Al-Anbar, killing at least 7 terrorists during the operation of liberating Al-Anbar governorate. Finally, in occupied Palestine, Israeli settlers broke into the area of Berk Salman, south of Beit Lahem, and performed religious rituals as other settlers used bulldozers to carve a road into Al-Khudr town, destroying hundreds of hectares of farmland. Meanwhile, Palestinian sources warned against the escalating Israeli measures in occupied Jerusalem, especially the continuous aggression of Israeli settlers against Al-Aqsa Mosque. With this, we conclude our news for today. Thank you for watching. For more details about Syria and the region and to view this bulletin again, you can always visit our site in English, syriaonline.sy. Now to latest business and market news with Karun Kürkcan, but after a short break.